Is vacation on your mind? Putting it together is like handling a major project. First, you have to decide on a destination and time of travel. Then, map the places you like to cover in the destination. Then, select suitable accommodation options. Then, decide on what you must see and do. Also, look for local transportation choices. Later, search airline and schedules most convenient and cost effective, and arrive at a realistic duration for the vacation. Figure out food and shopping selections, and factor individual taste and preference of family. Also, check on time available for visa if applicable. Then comes the all important budget. Rightly so. Vacation planning is nothing short of executing a project.
Now let's see how Project V, the travel show from WorldTravelStudio, can help you plan a vacation with ease and elan. The show aims at giving you destination overview, ways to make informed choices on what to see and do, tips on places to sleep, eat, shop, and itinerary suggestions. Top it all, it brings to you authentic insight about the destination from official tourism experts. This show is hosted by Mr. Mohan. Well, who is Mr. Mohan?
Hello friends, welcome to Project V. Our first episode showcases Australia as the destination for your next holiday. Starting with an overview of the destination, we move on to the experts and hear them speak with passion and authority on Australia and almost take you on a virtual tour of Australia before you do the real one. I will then share a sample itinerary with you for Australia and show some of the holiday options we have in store for you at WorldTravelStudio. Australia is a destination endowed with lovely holiday experience. Tourism is majorly concentrated along the coast in the states of Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Southern Australia, Northern Australia and Tasmania. Each of the states and territories promise an endless choice of natural and man-made attractions besides unique experiences for you. There is nothing like Australia when it comes to enjoying your leisure holiday or a honeymoon holiday. I am sure you're already excited and contemplating your next vacation to this exotic place. In helping you plan sooner and better, you need to hear about this hotbed of tourism from experts who know it all. Hello friends, I am at the Tourism Australia office in Mumbai. This place houses the brains behind making Australia one of the greatest vacation destinations for Indian travelers. A destination for all seasons and many reasons. What's your pick? Nature, adventure, culture, sports, shopping, glamour, fashion or wildlife? What's on your mind? This smallest continent, or as some would call the largest island, has it all. There's nothing like Australia, and there's nothing like speaking to the experts who work behind the scene to give you that perfect holiday in Australia. Over to the country manager, India and Gulf, Mr. Nishant Kashikar. Hello Nishant.
Hi, Mohan.
Hi, welcome to Project V. And before we start, we know Nishant as the country manager for India and Gulf. We want to know Nishant as a person. So if you have something to share with your viewers about yourself.
First and foremost, thank you so much, Mohan, for having me on this show. I guess it's the first of its kind initiative undertaken by WorldTravelStudio. So congratulations on your effort.
Thank you.
And a special mention to the founder of WorldTravelStudio, that's Harish Pointe, who's been a dear friend of mine. I've had the privilege of working with Harish quite closely. So let me start answering your question in terms of who am I and what am I doing here. So I have a pretty simple job to do, and the job is to promote Australia as a destination for leisure and business events and encourage more and more Indians to travel to Australia. This is my 8th year with Tourism Australia, and I must say this is one of the best jobs in the world. I've had experience in marketing of nutrition products at Abbott, I've had experience of promoting holidays at Thomas Cook and Puoni, and now I have the responsibility of managing Tourism Australia's operations in India and the Middle East, and the journey has been pretty fruitful. I've seen the numbers grow from almost 120,000 to 300,000 now, and it's been one of the most finest journeys of my life, as I must say, promoting one of the largest islands in the world, promoting a country where people are extremely warm, welcoming and inviting, and it's a destination that you can keep visiting every time, and there are so many things that you can find that destination has to offer.
That's right. And can you share with the viewers the growth story of Tourism Australia after you have taken over the reins?
When I joined Tourism Australia in the year 2010, we were somewhere around 125,000 tourist arrivals. That was a number of Indian tourists who used to travel from India to Australia in 2009-2010. And since then, over the last 7 years, we've seen that number rise to 300,000 mark. And this is something that we had envisaged, that we would have achieved this goal by the year 2020. But we are achieving this goal almost 3 years, prior to our
great to hear that.
scheduled landmark.
Oh, lovely.
So a lot of things have changed. The way an Indian tourist plans his holiday, the way he plans his different elements of his holiday, right from accommodation options, varying from apartment style to resorts to hotels to luxury lodges. The way he travels, self-drive is now picking up because Australia is a great destination where you can drive at your own pace and enjoy your holiday at your own pace. And an Indian driving license is valid in Australia, so that's working really well for us. It's a great destination. The number of tourists have evolved, the number of initiatives that we have executed in the Indian market to build Australia's aspiration has seen a steady rise of Indian tourists. Also, what has happened over the course of the years is the bilateral relations between India and Australia have grown quite significantly. Whether it's political relations, whether it's people-to-people links, whether it's education relations or the government relations between the two countries, I must say at this point of time are at an all-time high. Student traffic is on the rise. When you have students studying in Australia, you have their parents traveling to that country to meet them as well. So the visiting friends and relatives segment is quite an important one for us. Business traffic between the two countries has also seen a significant rise. Incentive movements, as we call, as business events in the Tourism Australia parlance, has seen a rise. Last year we had almost over 6,000 corporates who traveled to Australia, or rather dealers of corporates who traveled to Australia, and that's seen a significant rise. Visa facilitation has been great. The Department of Immigration is quite proactive in their approach. Aviation links have improved. So I must say the stars have really aligned in Australia's favor.
Great.
And we see maintaining a healthy double-digit growth in arrivals over the next few years.
Oh, great. Just getting into the specifics now. What are the cities you would recommend to visit in Australia, and how much time would somebody need to spend ideally in each of those cities?
Let me answer your first part of your question, which is if you're traveling to Australia for the first time, we've seen a general trend that tourists tend to prefer the east coast of Australia. So they would begin their journey on the Gold Coast. They're traveling with families and kids. They would love to visit the theme parks of Gold Coast. There's lots to offer, as far as Gold Coast is concerned. From the Gold Coast, they would love to experience the Great Barrier Reef. So all the islands of the Great Barrier Reef, traveling from Cairns, coming down in the state of New South Wales. Sydney is one of the most iconic destinations that tourists would love to visit. From Sydney, they would love to visit Melbourne. And those who have a little bit of more time and maybe embarking on a 2 or 3 week holiday, they would consider a fifth city in the form of Adelaide and Kangaroo Island. So Cairns, Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, Kangaroo Island is kind of a first time traveler's choice when it comes to a holiday to Australia.
And if somebody has to do justice to the 5 cities, what's the minimum time frame?
I guess if you're visiting a continent, then you should at least have a couple of weeks, if not 3 weeks, to plan an Australian holiday. And a minimum number of nights that I would recommend in each city would be at least 4 nights. Because when you're staying for 4 nights, what you get is effectively 3 days, 3 full days for yourself to explore the culture, explore the city at your own pace, experience the food and wine culture, eat and dine at some of the local restaurants there, interact with the locals, participate in various adventure activities, visit the iconic structures that the destination has to offer.
Lots to see there.
There's lots to see,
Yeah.
and I guess a minimum of 4 nights in each city is a must. So if you're staying for 4 nights, 5 cities or 4 cities, that at least a 16 to 20 day holiday is what I would recommend
Oh, great.
if you want to really have a good time in Australia.
Okay. I don't know whether you had your honeymoon in Australia, but then what you would recommend a honeymooner doing in Australia? Which are the places where you could go and why?
I wish I would have had my honeymoon in Australia, but Australia is one of the destinations, one of the most sought after destinations for honeymooners, as I would say. And let me just take you by each state and the kind of uniquely Australian honeymoon experiences that a couple could enjoy on their first ever romantic vacation. So let's start off with the islands of the Great Barrier Reef. We've always seen in a Bollywood movie there's a couple spending nice time on a private island that is just there for themselves.
That's right.
And in Australia, you have a lot of these small islands which you can explore at your own pace. Where you're dropped off on this private island on the Great Barrier Reef, and once you get tired of each other, you can just call the catamaran back, and they'll bring you back. So a private island picnic on the Great Barrier Reef is a must to experience. Australia has also got one of the finest rainforests. These are a million-year-old forests, and you can indulge in a lovely spa treatment just for the two of you all, or a dining experience under a canopy of this million-year-old trees in Australia. So right from the rainforest to the reef experience in Cairns. If you love adventure, so Gold Coast is the adventure capital of Australia, and you can, right from enjoying a nice surfing lesson to bungee jumping off a plane, to taking the walk on one of the tallest buildings in the southern hemisphere, that's the Q1.
That's right.
To a fire truck transfer and visiting the theme parks. There's lots that Gold Coast has to offer. So if you are those the adrenaline type, the adventure junkies, that's Gold Coast as a destination that you shouldn't be missing. Coming to Sydney, if you love art, if you love theatre, then a performance at the Sydney Opera House is a must. You've got to watch at least a show at the Sydney Opera House. Taking the climb of your life by climbing up the Sydney Harbour Bridge and renewing your wedding vows is something that every honeymooner should do.
Yeah, that's right.
I've done it twice so far.
Oh, is it?
And
Okay.
it's one of the most spectacular experiences, I must say. If you love nice coastal walks, there's a beautiful walk from Bronte to Bondi. Bondi is one of the most famous beaches of Australia, and you can just stroll around this 2 to 3 kilometer stretch, and it's got amazing views. You can rest, relax. You can also
And
have
I
a
must
nice
say,
barbecue
I did
meal.
take that walk from Bondi to Bronte, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's one of the most
One of the
spectacular walks
greatest walks,
in
yeah.
Australia.
That's right.
So that's about Sydney. In Melbourne, you have lots to do. I mean, if you're a cricket lover, then a tour of the Melbourne cricket ground is a must. You have to visit the mecca of cricket in Australia.
That's right.
You can have a sumptuous lunch at the Melbourne cricket ground as well. You can take the tour of the National Sports Museum. So a tour of the MCG is a must. You can have a lovely romantic dinner in one of the colonial tramcar restaurants in Melbourne as well.
That's right.
You can take a drive along the Great Ocean Road. It's called as most spectacular drives in the world.
That's right.
And it's like driving on the edge of the world, literally. So drive on this Great Ocean Road. If you're fond of the natural Australian wildlife, then a visit to Phillip Island is a must, where you see those fairy penguins, visiting the
Coming to
burrows at the
greet
end of
you,
the
yeah.
day. They
That's
come
right.
to greet you every day in the evening.
right.
Visit the zoos of Australia, where you interact with the Australian natives, the koalas, the kangaroos, and you can actually have a breakfast with a kangaroo and a koala in Kangaroo Island.
Okay.
So that's another destination that should not be missed when you're on a holiday
Okay.
or on your honeymoon. So
Great.
there's lots that Australia has to offer, right from the rainforest to the reefs to the outback to the traditional, to key gateway cities, the iconic structures, to adventure, to romance, to self-drive experiences. I guess this is one destination that has got many holidays in one holiday.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I personally believe that when you're traveling as a family or as a couple, the needs of two individuals are quite different.
That's right.
Right? So this is one destination that takes care of the needs of each and every member of the family.
That's right.
And therefore,
Incredible
if
list.
there's
Yeah.
one destination that you should choose for your next holiday, that has to be Australia.
Yeah. Well said. And you have been umpteen times to Australia, of course, and you would have traversed the length and breadth of the country. Is there anything which one has to do, like a must-see or a must-do thing, just one thing in every city, which you can't miss, come what may, no matter what's your interest?
So personally, and these are my personal favorites, although I'm part of the federal government and not supposed to be biased towards any one particular location, but these are my personal favorites that I loved and had really had a wonderful time when I visited Australia. So again, let's starting off from the northern part of Australia. The islands of the Great Barrier Reef is one of the most spectacular experiences. You know, every country has got beaches to offer, but Australian beaches are quite special. You can see 1,000 shades of blue in that ocean, you know, and the admirable marine life that Australia has to offer, that the Great Barrier Reef has to offer, is quite spectacular.
How comfortable you are getting into the water?
Oh, even if you're a non-swimmer, and most Indians are non-swimmers, it's pretty easy, and you have instructors there to take care of you. So even if you're a non-swimmer, you can still do the snorkeling experiences, or take a submarine ride, you know, underwater scuba ride a water scooter at the waterbed as well. So these are some of the must-do experiences in the islands of the Great Barrier Reef. On the Gold Coast, there's a place called Mount Tamarind, and they have a glowworm tour. You know, this is one of the most spiritual experiences that you can never witness in Australia. You know, you walk inside a rainforest, and here you see all the fireflies and the glowworms which are fully lit up. There are like millions of light bulbs lit in pitch darkness. And this is one of the most finest moments that you can never have, you know, in your life. It's I would say it's one of the most life-changing experiences that you can ever witness. In Sydney, you can never run away from the two icons. You cannot, you just can't spend enough hours or days just admiring the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and dining at one of the restaurants at the Rocks at Darling Harbour is something that you should do on your holiday in Sydney. Melbourne, it's the MCG, because I'm a cricket fan. I play a T20 game every weekend, so cricket's close to my heart. And so the visit to the MCG is a must. It just transforms you. It just imagine, you know, when the Indian cricket team plays there, and Indian cricket team, by the way, will be visiting Melbourne and Australia in 2018 for a 4-test series. So that's another one to watch.
So you'll be there, I believe.
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Cheering for the Indian and the Australian team.
Oh, great.
So Melbourne and the MCG and the Great Ocean Route Ride, it's quite spectacular and a must do. In South Australia, it's a natural beauty of the Kangaroo Island. You're in the midst of nature, amidst all kangaroos, in their natural habitat, and in a country which is, in a city which is like, not a city but an island which is almost 7 to 8 times bigger than the city of Singapore, but just around 5,000 to 6,000 people. It's quite remote, pristine, and spectacularly beautiful. So that's about Adelaide. In the Northern Territory and the Outback, at the moment there's a festival called the Field of Light. It's Bruce Munro's installation of solar illuminated glass, glass stems. And this is again one of the most spiritual experiences that you can have in the outback, in the desert of Australia, overlooking the majestic Ayers Rock. It's a huge monolith, you know, that you're aware of, and therefore a visit to Ayers Rock and the Field of Light is a must. Western Australia has got some amazing, you know, attractions as well, right from the Vacay to, you know, you can take a drive to Margaret River, the wine region of Western Australia. You can drive down to Pinnacles or the Ningaloo Reef, and Perth as a city is quite beautiful as well. Talking about the capital region, if you love museums and art, if you want to visit the national galleries, that's one city that you should not miss.
Or the Parliament in session.
The Parliament House as well. You can actually walk inside the live Parliament session and witness you know, the leaders of the country at one single place, you know, and getting into healthy debates out there.
And it's not far from Sydney.
Oh no, it's just a 3 hours drive from Sydney as well. So you can do a day trip, or you can stay overnight, at least for a couple of nights as well in Canberra. And last but not the least is the spectacular island, the heart-shaped island of Tasmania. It is one of the most breathtaking places in the world, as I must say, and I must confess. And a self-drive experience in Tasmania is something that a honeymoon or a second-time traveler to Australia should definitely do. You have one of the most purest airs in the world on this particular island. and therefore you just have to visit Tasmania because it's just too beautiful.
Oh, great. Moving on to the next, Nishant. There are great road trips which Australia boasts of. So, which is your favorite?
Self-drive is quite popular in Australia, primarily because of three facts. The first being the fact that an Indian driving license in English is valid in Australia. You do not need to have an international driver's permit. You drive on the same side as you drive in India, so you drive on the left-hand side of the road. And the third thing is the fact that the cars are of right-hand drive variety, so the same cars that you drive in India.
So it's like you're on familiar grounds.
Absolutely,
Except the road is
and
different.
much lesser number of people and cars on the roads as well.
That's right.
So self-drive is increasingly getting traction amongst Indian travelers, especially among honeymooners and families who want to enjoy their holiday at their own pace. In partnership with Lonely Planet, we had launched a booklet called the Great Australian Road Trips. It had featured some of the top 15 self-drive routes in Australia. So even if you visit australia.com and type the Great Australian Road Trips, you would get details on the various experiences and the various places that you could stop. The itineraries were ranging from 2 nights, 3 nights to almost 10 to 12 days within Australia that you could cherish and enjoy. In terms of the most popular routes among the Indians, the Great Ocean Road drive from Melbourne to the Great Ocean Road is quite famous. You can also drive from Melbourne to Adelaide via the Great Ocean Road. You can also do a drive from Sydney to Melbourne via the Grand Pacific Drive, which is quite popular and quite famous in India as well. You can drive from Cairns to Port Douglas via Palm Cove in the northern part of Queensland. There's one interesting trivia, Australia's got this Highway 1, and that Highway 1 runs from Cairns right up to Perth.
Oh, is it?
Along the coastline of Australia.
So how long does it take to travel?
Oh well, you can spend almost a month driving from Cairns to Perth.
Oh,
so
great.
so you got to pick your route, and while the preferred mode of traveling from one city to the other is by air, driving is really catching up amongst the young Indians as well.
Oh, great. And talking about train journeys, because Australia has this Ghan, and then you have the Indian Pacific.
You're right.
So, which are the ones, if somebody has to have a taste of the train journey?
I guess you've rightly pointed out, Mohan, there are two popular train journeys in Australia. One is the Ghan, and the Ghan travels from Adelaide to Darwin. It's, you travel vertically across it's from south to north, or you can also take a train journey from north to south, from Darwin to Adelaide, and have various stops as well. You can get down at maybe Ayers Rock or Alice Springs and enjoy a nice holiday experience there. And another train journey is the Indian Pacific that runs from Perth to Sydney or Sydney to Perth. So these are equivalent to the the luxury trains that we have in India, and those who enjoy train journeys should definitely embark on a train journey.
As of now, how popular it is among the Indian travelers?
It's popular amongst those who are visiting Australia for the second and the third time, who've already experienced the country once and who are fond of train journeys.
Somebody on a shoestring budget and he wants to use public transport, be it a bus or a ferry or a train, intra-city or intercity. Can you do that?
Absolutely. So in Melbourne, you have a City Circle tram, which is free for tourists around the world. So you just have to carry your passport, and if you're a tourist, you can actually explore the city on this tram at your own pace. It's a hop-on, hop-off tram, so you can just get down at any stop and visit the attraction that you intend to visit. So Melbourne's got that, and it's got one of the largest tram network in the entire world. So that's one of the best ways to explore the city. Gold Coast has got a monorail now. Sydney is planning one, a light rail on a monorail type. So moving within the city, within the CBD or the Central Business District of any of these capital cities is not at all a hassle. In fact, I would recommend that people walk through these cities because the cities are so structurally planned. It's in a proper grid, so there's no chance that you would get lost. And you can just keep following a particular lane, and that's the best way to experience and meet the locals and experience some of the lanes and the arcades of one of the finest cities in the world.
That's right.
So walking or taking a walk, literally in the cities.
It's one of the best things, because they always say you discover the place better when you go on a walking tour.
Absolutely. So whenever you're on a holiday, you should actually spend one day just visiting the city at your own pace by just walking around the city, getting into small cafes and restaurants and experiencing local cuisine that the city or the country has to offer.
Great. And Australia, now coming to Australia as a tourist destination, there are a lot of tourist spots in Australia, the world famous ones. So is there something which can put a tourist in a spot? Any rule or regulations or law that one needs to be aware of?
Safety and security ranks pretty high in terms of Australia as far as Australia is concerned. So if you're traveling to Australia and you're carrying any medicines, if you're carrying any dairy products, any food products, cigarettes, alcohol, any restricted items. So Australia's got pretty strict quarantine rules, and it's mandatory to declare everything and each and every item that you're carrying along with you. So because Indians have a habit of carrying pickles or kakras, and sometimes Indians also carry mangoes and some of the fruits from India to Australia.
That's right.
So you need to declare as soon as you land in Australia, and because there's an incoming passenger card that you need to fill up and hand it over to the immigration officials, and therefore you need to declare everything that you're carrying from India, whether it's medicines, whether it's food products, whether it's dairy products, cheese, fruits, vegetables, or whatever's in your bag, you got to declare.
And you have to declare and dump it, or you declare and you can just carry it?
I guess there are certain items which are packed, pre-packed items they allow you to carry, but cheese is banned. You cannot carry fruits. Some of the dairy products are banned. Vegetable items are banned. If you're carrying shoes which has got soil or dirt on it, you're not allowed to carry these shoes inside Australia, because they're quite sensitive to environment. And I guess that's the reason it's rated one of the best cities or best countries in the world.
What's the best time you would recommend to travel to Australia?
So if you'd ask me what is the best time to travel to Australia, I would say the time is now, because it's a year-round destination. The weather is conducive for travel all through the year. Just to give an example, when India was playing Australia in Melbourne at the Boxing Day game on the 26th of December 2014, we actually experienced 4 weathers in a day. So in the morning when the game started, there was slightly overcast
And
conditions.
Melbourne is very notorious for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In Australia, I mean, you can in different cities of Australia, you can actually experience 4 different weathers in a day.
Oh, is it?
So when the game started, it was slightly overcast conditions. There's some rains. After that, you're seeing players wearing sweaters and jumpers while they're on the field. And in the evening, we had bright sunshine.
Okay.
So these are cities and where you can experience, as I said, 4 different weathers, where you have spring, summer, autumn, and winter in one day, in given 24 hours. So, as I said, unless you're traveling to the outback, where the temperatures are pretty high during summer, you could possibly avoid the period between December and February. But apart from that, if you're traveling to the east coast of Australia, the weather is more tropical around the Queensland, the tropical state of Queensland. Anytime between March to November is a good time. As I said, you can avoid the outback or the desert between December and Feb. But
Summer months. Okay.
other than that, it's a year-round destination. Families love to travel during the school holidays. Traditionally, April, May, June is when Indian kids have got holidays. So that's the best time to travel. It's winter, but since Indians love to travel to the Gold Coast, it's quite tropical out there. So it's pretty warm at the same time. It's not as cold. And if you're traveling in December, it's bright and sunny, and you can, as I said, you can experience 4 different weathers.
And there again, I think the temperature doesn't go beyond 35, 36 degrees.
Yeah, there are certain days where the temperature shows up to 38, 40 degrees, but that's an exception. It's pretty pleasant. The nights are pretty pleasant, and it's a year-round destination.
Oh, great. Australia again is a long-haul destination, so the flight cost is one of the determinant for taking up a holiday to Australia, and there are also some internal flights involved.
Right.
So this could push Australia down on the consideration list for an Indian family. So how do you address that?
My advice to every traveler who's planning an Australia trip is to plan your holiday well in advance. Recently, we collaborated with 8 different carriers and launched a campaign called the Airline Marketplace. So we had Singapore Airlines, Malaysia Airlines, Thai, Cathay Pacific, Qantas, Scoot, AirAsia, and Air India. These airlines came on board, and we offered some spectacular fares for travel to Australia. This was a 3-week campaign with a travel validity of almost close to 9 months to a year. And fares were as low as 30,000 to the eastern coast of Australia. So if you plan early you can get a good deal, a good fare to Australia. And as I said, if you're traveling domestically within Australia, we have Jetstar and Virgin Australia. And again, the trick is to book your holiday early to avail those low fares so that you can get the lowest class booking class in terms of the airline booking system.
Every year we need to wait for this marketplace to happen, or typically the window to book a holiday is about 6 months ahead, or maybe 3 months ahead?
Ideally, you should book your holiday 4 to 6 months ahead before your intended date of travel. That gives you enough time to plan your holiday. You also avail the best fares when you book your holiday well in advance. And you also avail some great fares within Australia, within domestic Australia, whether in Virgin Australia or on Jetstar.
That makes sense. Great. And talking about visa, because visa is one process which can maybe dissuade or maybe persuade a traveler to choose a destination. So Australia, how easy is the visa processing mechanism?
So from the 1st of July 2017, Indian passport holders are able to lodge their visa application online. So sitting at home, each and every traveler can apply for his Australian visa within the comforts of his home. All you have to do is just log on to www.border.gov.au. That's BORDER, border.gov.au. Create your own IMI account, IMMI, an IMI account, and then you can submit your application directly to the Australian High Commission. You can also apply through agents like WorldTravelStudio because they'll facilitate and offer you necessary assistance as far as the visa procedures and processes are concerned.
Sure, that makes it easy. So before I wind up this conversation, can you tell me about 5 compelling reasons to visit Australia?
I have more than 5 to tell you, but let me restrict my number of reasons to 5. I guess the first and the foremost is that Australia is a destination that offers everything for everyone. It's got the mountains, it's got the reefs, it's got the rock, it's got the rainforest. It's a destination for adventure seekers, those intending to go on a self-drive holiday, romantic vacation, family holidays, empty nesters, art, architecture, culture, outback, you name it. And this destination has everything to offer. So that's the one and the most compelling reason for travel to Australia. The second reason is weather. As I said, it's a year-round destination, with the exception of outback, which should be avoided between December and Feb. You can travel to Australia during any time of the year. The third reason is the number of airlines that can take you to Australia. There are almost over 10 to 12 airlines from India across different parts of India that can actually help you travel to Australia. Australia's got some great domestic connections. So that really helps you.
It's from India, you were saying?
Yeah, from India.
Main hubs, yeah.
The visa facilitation, as I said, with the online lodgement of visa applications, that's one of the biggest USPs that Australia as a destination has to offer. And last but not the least is the fact that if you look at the list of the top 10 livable cities in the world, you have Melbourne, Sydney, Perth and Adelaide featuring in the top 10 livable cities of the world. So as far as safety, security, infrastructure, you name it, attractions, facilities for adults, this is one great country to visit. And it's got some uniquely, Australian experiences, right from the Great Barrier Reef to the Sydney Opera House, Harbour Bridge. You can admire some great, nature and wildlife experiences, some spectacular seascapes and landscape that the destination has to offer. Amazing food and wine culture. Indian food, vegetarian food is not a problem. Language is not a problem because everyone speaks English. I guess these are enough reasons for somebody to travel to Australia or for your travelers to consider the next holiday to Australia.
Definitely, yes. So thank you so much, Mr. Nishant.
Absolute pleasure and
absolute
pleasure and honor. Thank you so much.
And I'm sure the viewers will pack their bags soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Friends, we heard the experts speak on why Australia should be next on your holiday list. Let us now design an itinerary of around 20 days covering major cities and also a little of Northern Territory. We start in Gold Coast and end in Melbourne, doing Cairns, Ayers Rock, Sydney and Adelaide in between. You fly into Brisbane and transfer to Gold Coast by road on day 1. In the evening, go on Mount Tambourine tour and watch the glowworms. Next day, you visit one of the famous theme parks of Gold Coast, Movie World, Dream World or the Sea World, for the adrenaline rush and the family fun.
Reserve today for a full day whale watching tour or take a combination tour of fire truck, jet boating and any one of the theme parks. Soar into the morning skies on a hot air balloon in Gold Coast and proceed to an evening flight out of Brisbane to Cairns. Experience the Kuranda Rainforest Sky Rail followed by a peep into the Aboriginal life and culture at Jabukai Park. Evening, take a stroll along the Esplanade or visit the famous night markets and dine at any of the many restaurants there. Get on board the cruise today to explore the Great Barrier Reef and marvel at this natural wonder. Have fun snorkeling and scuba diving under the watchful eyes of instructors or simply take the semi-submarine routes. A helicopter ride is a great way to enjoy the Great Barrier Reef from atop. Remember to hit the bed early. Leave Cairns on an early morning flight to Ayers Rock and take the sunset tour to Uluru. After seeing the natural wonder Uluru, leave Ayers Rock for Sydney and check into a hotel. The rest of the day is at leisure. Explore the iconic city of Sydney and its attractions on the hop-on hop-off bus, operating as both the city tour and the Bondi tour, covering landmarks such as Sydney Opera, Harbour Bridge Aquarium, Sydney Tower and Bondi Beach. Remember to do the Bondi Bronte Coastal Walk for a wonderful experience. Today, explore Australia's capital Canberra on a full-day tour and take an interesting guided tour of the new Parliament House. Not far away from Sydney, visit today the Blue Mountains and Featherdale Wildlife Park or alternatively the Jennalun Caves. Visit the Market City in Darling Harbour for some nice shopping experience and spend the evening on Sydney Showboat Cruise with entertainment and dinner. Today is day 13 of your itinerary and you fly out of Sydney to Adelaide and rest of the day is free at leisure. Get up close and personal with kangaroos with an early morning tour to Kangaroo Island in Adelaide. Depart from Melbourne. In the evening, visit the Phillip Island and witness the famous Penguin Parade. Take one of the most memorable road journeys of the world, Great Ocean Road, and marvel at the scenic beauty and the famous apostles. Your visit to Melbourne would be incomplete without the Yarra Valley Winery tour with a visit to the chocolatery and the ice creamery for yummy treats. Combine this with Puffing Billy in the Dandenong Ranges, which is a fun heritage train experience for young and old alike. Explore Melbourne on the famous Circle Tram, free for tourists to travel within the CBD. It's a smart way for an orientation tour of the city. Visit attractions of your choice, including the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Explore Flinders area and surrounds for great gastronomical delight. Today, visit the Queen Victoria Market in Melbourne, open till 2 p.m. Take an evening flight out of Melbourne, full of fond memories of a great Australia vacation. Visit World Travel Studio website www.worldtravelstudio.com for many more itinerary options. Hope you have enjoyed the show and goodbye friends until we meet again with another episode.